It's a real important process that we're trying to implement here, and I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised on the process, and number one, how easy it is, and hopefully subside any anxieties or any fears that may be out there. As you go through the process, you're going to see it's really not that big of a deal. It's just being able to get the hang of it and going through it. This is actually going to be our fourth testing group. And what I mean is that we had a pilot last Friday with our central office staff. We had a group that we tested at North Transportation Wednesday, and then this morning before your session, and then now this session as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to test everybody here before we do the presentation, because we're going to want to know that everybody's okay here. And if we do have a situation where somebody is positive, we do have a protocol for that, but we're going to go ahead and do that testing right now. My name is Mike Gatso. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Administration. I'm actually the district-wide testing coordinator. Well, what that means is all the inventory, everything that comes through our district, I have to report back to the state, right? So that's my responsibility, my role. All of you here have already watched the video, have gotten your certification, so you will be test administrators and or coordinators, depending on your campus situation, right? So what I want to share with you right now is this is not the normal testing setup. What the testing setup will be is there will be no chairs whenever you're testing at your location. It'll all be, everybody comes in, they're standing up, they do the test, then we get the results, they walk away, okay? Nobody sits down. We want this process to be quick, and if everybody's standing up, it makes the process go faster, and we'll have people in and out. The reason we have chairs is because there's actually a PowerPoint presentation that we're providing in addition to the video that you've already seen. And it really just emphasizes what you've already seen in the information. So with that being said, can I have everybody stand up, just like we're testing at that location? Now, just to kind of give you a concept or an idea, we have one of the boxes. This is what you'll actually be receiving at your location. It's an actual kit, box kit. It has 40 test kits, okay? Each kit is basically one of these foil packages that you have in front of you, okay? So there's 40 of those packets in one of these boxes. Depending on your enrollment, depending on your staff size, we'll be automatically shipping these to you, to the site coordinator, right? To the person that's going to be in charge at your location for the inventory of these items, okay? The test administrators will be distributed these individual packets at the time that you're going to be doing your actual testing at your particular location. One thing that's critical that we did with the first group that we don't have to do now is before you use a test kit, the very first time you get it, there is a quality control process. Each kit has a positive sample, and it has just a regular swab, right? Just a normal swab that you have in front of you. Obviously, that's a negative sample, right? So the positive sample, it's a red-tipped swab. It comes in a foil that's protected. Whenever you deal with that, if you happen to have to do the quality control test, make sure you have gloves on, make sure you have because it is a positive test, right? So once you open that foil, once you do the process of testing, make sure you throw away your gloves and all that stuff, because any handling of that positive test, we just want to have safety protocols for that as well. We're not going to do that here because this has already been open. We've already did the quality control in the first group, so we're good to go on the actual test itself. So in front of you, when everybody sits down, or when everybody comes into their testing area, you want to make sure that they have 3 things in their location, right? Or 4 things, actually. Number 1 is the face mask, the disposable face mask that's going to be there, used for every test subject. You actually have your test kit, which is the foil wrapper that you have. You have a swab, right? That's where you're going to actually take the sample, and that they have their QR code information on their desk so that we can quickly go through the process of scanning everybody's information. All right, so now we're going to actually do the testing itself. The first thing, this is the way you're going to proceed when you actually do a test. The first thing you want to do is that anybody that has a reusable mask, right, the ones that you take home, wash, and reuse again, you want to go ahead and replace them with a disposable mask that you have in front of you. If you currently have a disposable mask on, you can leave that on, use it for the test, and then use the disposable mask as your new reusable mask going forward. Yes, ma'am?
Well, I don't have a mask.
Oh.
Some of us, we don't have a mask.
Sorry, there should have been a mask on there. Just go ahead and let them grab the mask from the back. My apologies. Yes, ma'am.
So once you do the test per box, that's the only...
That's the only quality control, because you only get one positive, and then you can use any swab to test for the negative. And randomly select any test. It doesn't have to be in order. You're just testing the validity of the tests that are in that box. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
No, sir, I have my hands so that they'll know.
Oh,
that
sorry,
I'm
sorry.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
sir,
No, it's okay. All right, so right now, no. Again, this is self-administered, right? So this is your own, you're touching your own stuff, nobody's touching it, and that's why, there's no requirement for gloves or any of that other stuff.
So have we washed our hands before doing all of this?
I think they gave you hand sanitizer when you walked in, right? No? Okay. Let me, yeah. That is going to be the process, right? Before you walk in, you're going to be given hand sanitizer before you walk in. So that should have been the process outside. Raise your hand if they didn't come by real quick.
Everybody else?
Up here in front there, Jared?
Everybody else is good?
Again, we're going to be providing you all the equipment, all the PPE, all the hand sanitizer, all that stuff. So that process will be, so when you checked in, they should have hand sanitized, given you that option or provided it to you before you walked in here. Okay, so now this is the process you're going to use when you're actually testing. Go ahead and, those of you that have reusable masks, go ahead and replace them with the disposable mask. Okay, perfect. All right, so at this point, then, we're going to go ahead and get your test kit, open it up. There is a groove on one of the, either the bottom or the top, there's a groove, there's an indentation that makes it easy to open, okay? Just rip it open, take out the test card. There's a little thing that preserves the test inside, don't worry about that. That can stay in the bag, no big deal. Now, open the card like a book, open it, bend it backwards so that it sits flat on your table, okay? Make sure that it's completely flat on your table. All right? Perfect. Okay, at this point going forward, what you want to emphasize for everybody that's taking the test, that's taking the exam, that they do not pick up the exam from this point forward, all right? Because we're going to administer drops. There's going to be a swab that goes into it. So from this point forward, you do not want to pick it up. And we'll go through that process to make sure that we're following it to the T. The two circles that you have should be facing you, right? They should be facing in your direction, okay? So before we ask you to blow, which we're going to ask you to do right now to be able to get some test material, we're going to have our individuals go by and do the reagent at this time, okay? So they're going to go and they're going to put 6 drops on the top circle of every one of your test kits, okay? Now, it's got to be vertical. Make sure that whenever you guys are doing it as test administrators, that you have it in a vertical position, adding the drops for each one of the test kits, okay? Now, as you get your teams together, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be the administrator every single time you're testing. The more people you have in your team, the more you can rotate people in and out, the more you can have individuals doing the actual droplets. So you want to have as many people on your test team as possible. 5 is the minimum, but if you want to have more, that's okay.
Mr. Garza, the kit comes with 1 reagent?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. 1 reagent per box. The only reason that we're using more than 1 is because we've had other kits and we've already used it, so we kept that. So you do the same. As you run out of that box's test kits, you keep the reagent from that kit, okay? The reason the quality control is important is we want to test the reagent being effective, and we want to test to make sure that the test kits are effective, okay? Now, the other thing too that I failed to mention, this is my bad. Again, we're going through this is also new for us. You want to double check that your test kit has a blue line at the very beginning, okay? Now, all of them have the blue line, so we're good. So the odds are good. But one of the things you want to do when they open it up, you want to remind them, make sure it has a blue line. That indicates that it's a valid test, okay? All right, so now at this point, I need for you to grab your swab. The swab itself has an opening, like a butterfly opening. Make sure all you do is expose the handle. Don't open it all the way. Do not take it out. Just expose the handle only, okay? Have it available so you can quickly reach it and be able to use it. Okay, go ahead and put it back on your desk. Make sure that it doesn't contaminate the actual tip of the swab. All right, so this is the fun part. Get your index finger, put it underneath your nose. Make sure that it's completely underneath your nose, okay? When I count to 3, I need for you to blow like if you're blowing into a handkerchief, all right? What do you think the reason for that is? That's right. We want to be able to get a good sample to be able to test it, all right? So on the count of 3, 1, and you're going to do it 3 times, okay? 1, 2, 3. All right, good job, everybody, good job. All right, now what I need for you to do is get your mask and put it underneath your nostrils only, okay? Cover your mouth, make sure your mouth is covered. There you go, expose your nostrils only. Grab your swab, pull it out, make sure it doesn't touch anything else, okay? Use it on the first nostril that you feel you have the most moisture in. Go around the wall of your nostril, okay? Try to keep your mouth covered if you can. All right, and then go to the other nostril and do the same thing, 5 circles all the way around. All right. Okay, you can leave the paper on the desk if you want to. The paper there. All right. Now, once you have your test material, you're going to want to stick it in the first hole, the very first hole, and make sure that it goes in at an angle to reach to the top hole. The first hole.
That's first.
Yes, ma'am. Get in there. Push it in. Okay. Now you want to go clockwise 3 times to the right. Clockwise 3 times to the right. Okay, make sure that it's all in there. Okay. Now you're going to take out the adhesive on the right hand side. Do not pick up your test kits. Okay. Do not pick up your test kits. You're going to close it from left to right. Left to right, flat. Okay. Left to right. This is why you don't want to use gloves, because if you have gloves, it's hard to take off the adhesive part. Left to right. Okay, make sure that it's firm. Make sure that it's firm across, right? Make sure that the reagent is reactive. All right. So at this time is when you're going to have the time clock, the timer going. And this is where the 15 minutes start. And let me do that real quick. All right. The cool thing is, after 3 minutes or 4 minutes, we're going to know if you're positive or negative. Okay? We wait 15 minutes because that is the official manufacturer's recommended time frame. That's the only time when we can scan and enter your official results. Okay? But in 3 or 4 minutes, we're going to know if you're positive or negative in here. Any faint, you guys can start scanning. Any faint touch of any line, if it's 1 line, you're negative. If it's 1 full line on the top and faint on the second one, you're positive. It doesn't matter. Any second line that comes up, it's positive. It's like a pregnancy test, guys. 2 means you're pregnant, 1 means you're not, right?
Can't be a little bit pregnant.
You can't be a little bit pregnant, that's right. So the bottom line is, if you have any 2 lines that show up, even if the second line is faint, you're positive. And guess what? We're going to err on the side of caution. You're positive, okay? We're always going to err on the side of caution. Now, they want to go and get a second test, that's okay. But for right now, for our purposes, it's going to be a positive test. And what we're doing here is we're scanning your test kit, okay? We're scanning your test kit. I'm sorry. So let's scan this one first. You want to do it from this angle? Just to make sure you're not. Now I'm going to put this thing right there. And then we're going to scan. Push it out. And then we're going to scan it through. Okay, so what we're doing now you want to check with her to make sure her email address and her cell phone is correct. Okay? So what we're doing is we're scanning your card, and then we're scanning your QR code, and it's going to marry you to that test kit. Okay? So once we do that, you're already married, basically. Now, we're gonna ask you some questions, right? For the females that are in the group, when you registered, it asks you if you're male or female. There's a reason for that. One of the questions is, are you pregnant? So we're not gonna tell that out to you loudly. We're gonna ask you the question. We're gonna ask you to answer it. We're just gonna show you the question, okay? The two things that you always want to confirm in the first part of the demographic information is your email correct? Is your cell phone correct? A lot of people have been putting their office number, okay? Is your cell phone correct? The reason is, this is the official notification of your results. So that information goes to the state then emails and texts you your results. It doesn't matter, you're gonna know what your results are before. That's just an after the fact notification that we do. So we are gonna be confirming your information, each one, okay? Now, here's the cool thing too. Once I scan, any one of us scans your test card and your QR code and we've married you already, it doesn't matter. When you save it, because you're going to save it, because you're not going to be able to enter the results until after 15 minutes, right? And you have to come back and scan again. Once it's married, it doesn't matter. Anybody can rescan anybody's card and it'll pop up their information. Just to be able to go and put it in the results. Okay? Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
Right. You saved it, Mike?
So far, so good.
I don't have my glasses.
Save. And now you go to the next one. So were you able to save the last one? Were you able to save it? Okay, great. Okay. All right, we are officially at 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So let me, I'll do the honors and check in everybody here. Okay. So you're a test administrator. What do you see? There you go. Good. You're a test administrator.
There you go.
Yes, I know, everything written down. Oh, yeah.
I should be wearing my face shield. I should be wearing my face shield. My fault. Okay, there you go. What do you see there?
I'll have my reading glasses when I do
That's all that matters.
And then next time that you wanna confirm also.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not yet. You gotta wait. So has everybody been scanned?
Outdoors?
Who has not been scanned initially? Everybody, oh God, this is hot. These things are super. You have not been scanned?
No, yes, I have.
Okay.
I have a question. When you have.
Okay, so go ahead and, wait, before we do anything, go ahead and take off your reusable mask and put on your normal mask. And put your reusable mask on your paper, on your, what's your paper? Then you can go ahead and grab a seat. So the good news, round of applause, everybody here is negative, right? Okay, so not to jinx it or anything, but we're betting 1,000, all right? Everybody we did last week, everybody we did this week, everybody we've tested has been negative, so thank God, thank the Lord. Just in case you're wondering if these things are good or not good, we actually tested a positive person, somebody that we knew. Since they're self-administered test, we went ahead and dropped it off in their front door. They administered the test, they put it back on the front door, or they actually sent us a photograph, and it showed positive. So they are effective. In other words, they tell you if somebody's positive. So just to reassure you. Now, when you walked in here, how many of you were nervous and scared about the process? Be honest, okay? Is it different now that you went through it? Is your anxiety level? No, you're still anxious. Again, the critical part here is that you're not touching anybody, right? Everybody's self-administering their own test. And yes, we should be giving you hand sanitizer, yes, but you're testing yourself, right? It'd be a lot different if I was testing you directly, if I was sticking the thing up your nose, it'd be totally different. But everything is self-administered. And whenever we do mass testing like this, it will be self-administered, okay? That means that every adult, from any student that's third grade on up, will do a self-administered test. Anybody below third grade, we're probably, when we get to that point, invite one of the parents to join the child, okay? They will be sitting right next to each other in this same setup, right? The parent will test themselves first, put in their test results, they will test their child. Okay, so again, we're not going to be interacting with having to stick anything up anybody's nose. Individually, if somebody wants to get tested for whatever reason, asymptomatic, something comes up, they'll report to the nurse's office just like they do now, and then the nurse will have a protocol to test that one person at that particular moment, okay? But we'll work with the nurses on that particular protocol. When you registered to get certified, there was 2 videos or 2 modules. One is for medically certified individuals, our nursing staff, and one is for non-medically certified individuals, which is myself and probably a lot of us here that are in this room. You'll be given all the PPE equipment that you want, as far as face shields, gowns, gloves, the N95s, which, oh God, these things are really hard to breathe, okay? So you'll be given all that stuff to be able to do the process, okay? So don't even worry about that. We did get approval 2 weeks ago. We found out we're going to be doing this. We didn't have this as part of our plan. We had been talking about getting test kits, but it was a super expensive proposition. So this is actually being provided to us by the state through the Texas Department of Emergency Management. We found out 2 weeks ago. A week ago, we got 22,000 kits in. Okay, they called us the day before, hey, we're shipping these. We weren't ready. Like, we didn't know when this stuff was going to start. We tested the next day in our central office. Everybody was negative. We tested 2 days ago at our Transportation North, just another little pilot. We tested this morning, and of course now we're testing you guys. So again, we're back in 1,000. So thank the good Lord. Oops. Sorry. Luckily it's empty. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and go through the PowerPoint presentation. And if y'all could just do me a favor, we'll ask questions at the end, just so we can get through. It's fairly lengthy. Okay, so as you register for the actual process, the QR code that you generated, you did it with this particular website, right? So when you're able to register, print out the QR code, you had to start with this process. So we're only having it here for those individuals that didn't have it available when they walked in, okay? All right, so this is called the Binax Now COVID-19 card. It's a process, it's actually manufactured by Abbott Laboratories. They're out of Kansas. And so basically the state, in conjunction with the Texas Department of Emergency Management, contracted with Abbott Laboratories to be able to provide these test kits. This is the actual video that you're going to be showing when you're on your test site, okay? So it just kind of goes through the process for you. It shows the individuals that are being tested, what the card looks like. You want to verify that there's a blue line. Does everybody see the blue line there? Yeah. So that's the first thing that you want to indicate to everybody when they open up their kits. Check for the blue line, okay? If there is no blue line, then that's an invalid test. Again, we go over the swabbing that needs to happen. It's going to be a rotation along the nasal wall 5 times from the bridge of the nose down. Okay, so it's not this brain matter test that we hear about all the time. It's just a real simple, non-invasive testing procedure. Okay. Again, you already experienced this. So you put the 6 drops. The only time you deviate from the 6 drops is when you're doing the quality control. Does anybody remember the quality control drops? How many we do?
8.
There you go. Everybody's paying attention. That's fantastic. All right, you stick the swab in there like we just did. Again, we don't recommend gloves because of the adhesive tape that we need to take off. You close it left to right, and you make sure that you never pick up the test kit, right? And then you get the results. The cool thing about this video that we're going to provide to you, now you're going to be getting this presentation sent to you, okay? The cool thing about this video is that once you go through this whole process, it gives you a countdown, and then it gives you your 15 minutes. So now, from that point, is when you're scanning, you're doing all the information, and you're letting this count down. So at the end of this video presentation, which you'll have running in your testing area, then you know that that's when you can go back and rescan everybody and officially submit the results. So in our case, we probably have exceeded 2 more minutes. Okay, so we need 2 more minutes. So on my timer, in 2 minutes, they're going to be going by and rescanning your cards so that they can officially submit your results. And that's important in order for you to get the notification of your results from the state, okay? The other thing is the manufacturer says that you cannot do it less than 15 minutes. You cannot, on the other hand, you cannot do it longer than 30. So between the 15-minute window and the 30-minute window, you have to submit the results. If you accidentally submit positive or you put some other result, it gives you 15 minutes to rescan and resubmit the correct results. So within that 15-minute window of scanning the initial results, you have 15 minutes to be able to get in and correct it, okay? Again, we mentioned the TDEM as being the division and it's actually run by the A&M system. So it's not a state agency per se, it's actually a university group that actually runs the emergency management. We are a certified testing center. Every one of our campuses is, due to a waiver that they provide for these type of situations. So just like the city of Laredo or any other agency that's a testing center, we are officially a testing center for COVID-19 only, okay, using this particular test. The tests are only going to be for students that are on campus, face-to-face instruction. At some point in the future, we're going to probably be looking at virtual if they're symptomatic or they have some issues, but at this time, we're only looking at face-to-face student instruction and those individuals that are on your campus providing instruction or full-time employees, okay? We're going to discuss the timelines on how we're going to test people in a little bit in the future slides. We want to give thanks to Isleta. They were the guinea pigs of the whole program for the state. Them, along with 4 other districts along the state, were actually implementing this about a month ago. So they worked out a lot of the kinks that we were able to get with them to find out. Again, the Energy Management Division and the Texas Education Agency. Our goal to be able to do that is we want to be able to provide another tool so we can keep all of our employees, all of our students and staff safe, to make sure that we're knowing. I always tell everybody, I'd rather know than not know, right? So I'd rather know if somebody's positive so we can treat them immediately and get them out of our locations. Bottom line, in order for us to opt into this program, we cannot force any employee or any student to take the test. It's strictly voluntary. With the students, it's easy. We're going to get parental consent, right? So we're going to have forms that we're going to have to send to the parents. Only the face-to-face students, right? As you get a new face-to-face student in, part of the process of getting them checked in is getting a parental consent given to that parent, right? So that'll be out of the way in terms of being able to test students. Employees, you'll probably have some kind of assignment sheet. We do have a Google recommendation for y'all. They can check in at particular time slots that they want, and that's going to be their voluntary confirmation of being able to take the test. We cannot force any of our employees or any of our students to take the test. We are looking at those students in extracurricular activity, just like we do drug and alcohol testing. We will require COVID testing for those individuals participating in extracurriculars, okay? We can't force them to take this test, just like in drug and alcohol, we can't force them to take the test that we provide, but they do have to take one, right? So it's free, We can provide it to them as many times as we need to, and they're never gonna have to pay anything. If they choose not to take this test, they can go get one, but they just have to follow the rules and the protocols of when we need that result back, okay? Okay, again, I showed you the box itself contains 40 test cards and 40 swabs. If we're having to do quality control in every single box, what does that leave? How many does that leave?
39.
We have 38 left over, right? So we're gonna test one that's gonna be positive, and we're gonna test one that's gonna be a negative swab, which is just a regular swab, right? We need to be able to confirm the validity. So that means that 38 kits will be left over. So when you're doing your counts, your site administrator, the person that's gonna be in charge of your inventory, we're gonna be sending these kits automatically to you based on your teacher rotation that we already have a schedule for, okay? But if we're short, just call us, we'll send you the additional units, making sure that you deduct the 2 per box, right? So make sure those counts are correct, okay? Very important that these kits be stored in a room that does not exceed 86 degrees. I've already talked to facilities, they assure me that a non-occupied building never reaches above 78 degrees. So our recommendation is that they be held in the principal's office, in the main office, not the closet, because the closet does not have air conditioning. In the main office so that we have those kits in a good environmentally controlled area. In the unlikelihood that it goes below 35 degrees, which I doubt that happens in any one of our buildings, but you gotta keep it above 35 degrees, below 86, okay? Make sure you have that, very important. That contains the validity of the test. Whenever we distribute the test kits, you're gonna be receiving N95 masks, face shields, gloves. We just recommend that you use a set, right? But we're gonna send you the whole box. Medical gowns for those individuals that wanna use it. For the people that are outside checking in, we're gonna require face masks or surgical masks and hand sanitizer. That's why that's processed before you check in, they should be providing you hand sanitizer. The appointment reservation form, again, we're gonna be sending this presentation to you, so this is the form that you're gonna have. We recommend that you use that. You can come up with your own form, but this is the best way to be able to track who's gonna be volunteering. Now, it's important, we're gonna have to be auditing the whole process, right? So on Thursday afternoons, we're gonna have a sheet that's gonna be district-wide that you're gonna have to input your current level of inventory, right? We gotta be able to marry those people that you've tested versus what you have left over, right? We gotta reconcile that, and we gotta send that information on Friday morning, which I'm gonna have to do here in the next few minutes. I have to send the current inventory that we have in our district to the state. They can come down and audit us at any time, I'm sure. So we gotta be able to have our records clean to match up with the individuals that are testing and what we have left on hand. In addition to being able to reorder whenever we need to get more test kits in. This program's not gonna go away. They have committed to funding this all the way through the end of May, right? So for the entire school year, we're gonna be able to get re-ups on our inventory, okay? Adequate number of tables and desks. We do recommend this type of setup, whether it's just a regular student desk. Those of you in the secondary levels, this is the type of desk that you have. Those of you in the elementary, they're the little small desks. Again, you can use either one, it's no big deal. We do recommend that you space everybody out a minimum of 6 feet. Here we try to make sure we space everybody out a bit further, right? So we want to make sure that you do a minimum of 6, but the further you can do it, the better. You want to do it in the cafeteria, you want to do it in the gym, anywhere that there's a big open area to be able to test people in and out, okay? Biohazard bags. Only these bags is where all your test kits are going to go into. We call them lollipops, right? So that is going to go in here. Your face mask that you blew into is going to go in here. Your wrapper for your swab is going to go in here. Everything else goes in the regular trash bin. Unless, what's the only exception? Can anybody think? If a person's positive, everything goes into the red bag. Okay? So all you do is you take the butcher paper, you wrap it up, and you put it in the red bag. Okay? Make it real simple. Now, the biohazard bags, we are contracting today. As a matter of fact, we have a company that's going to hopefully submit a bid. And all these will be at every single location, campuses and departments, okay? The nurses will be in charge of this particular biohazard. I think you'll handle biohazard, I think needles and all the other stuff at your camp. So it's the same process. We anticipate it being in your isolation room closet where you'll double bag everything, store it in there. We will be working with a company to be able to pick up that material. Hopefully, if we are all standard on our date of testing, they'll come the next day to pick up district-wide, right? So we gotta make sure that we're consistent in our testing dates. If not, no big deal, they'll come again in a couple days or whatever our schedule is to pick up. But we wanna pick them up as soon as you guys test to be able to get it out. Now, again, you're gonna have 1 or 2 tests you're gonna do. You're gonna put them in the red bag, you put them in the bigger box. As you can see over there, there's a bigger box. And those can stay there for a couple days until we get them picked up with the regular big testing dates. The hand sanitizer stations, the butcher paper that we talked about here. And we do recommend that you have, if you're gonna be testing all day or more than the morning, more than likely, you wanna have cell phone chargers because your devices are gonna run out of energy right away because you're scanning so many people, okay? And with that being said, let's go ahead and scan them right now to enter their official results while I'm continuing the presentation, okay? All right, so we're gonna distribute permission slips to the students, for the parents. Again, only those that are face-to-face. This is the document for that. Staff member assigned to this task is to visit the register, to register any student for their QR codes. Eventually, we're working with technology. This SLED already created a QR code system that comes directly from the student software and for our employees from the financial software. So eventually what we want to do is produce all the QR codes for all our people, and that way you just have them ready and available. You don't have to get them to register, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And the reason that's great is because once we scan and we send it to the state, we no longer have track of who's positive, who's negative. We're keeping paper copies, but there's no electronic tracking system. The state tracks it, they send it to the local health authorities, but we don't have anything as far as our personal records. So this will allow us to keep track of it internally, what we send to the state, and have that record on file. That's about 2 weeks away. We're still working with this letter to be able to get that done. Initially though, when they register at this website, just like you registered to test, when they register, you're gonna wanna make 2 copies. One for them to test, and one that you're gonna hold in their student record, right? The reason is, when you retest them, whenever time that is, all you gotta do is make a copy of what you have in their file, and now you don't have to ask them to re-register. Simple, right? Makes it real simple, right? So we have that. Okay, Mike Barron is gonna be in charge of the inventory district-wide in terms of the distribution, right? So we're gonna be distributing based on the campus staff rotations. Initially, I think what we're gonna be asking you to do is go ahead and test everybody that's on your location today, on the site today. That way the teachers that are leaving off of their rotation are already used to what the process is gonna be when they come back, right? When your teachers come in, your new rotation, you're gonna have to test that same day for those people that are coming in. I have a schedule, how we're gonna kick it off, and then we're gonna get on a rotation after that, we're gonna be good, okay? Prior to testing, this is important. This is important. All of you, and I need for you to have the peace of mind. All of us that are here got tested before y'all came in. So that you know that we're negative and we're not, we're not going to interacting with you with any positive individuals. So on the same token, you're gonna have to test before you test somebody, okay? So that's very critical, that's a very critical component. Because if you're positive, I can't have you near anybody testing, okay? So make sure that we're doing that prior to testing. So you want to do it the day before. Just like all of us did it the day before yesterday. We did it yesterday. You want to do it the day before. Once you test, don't go anywhere, don't go out, don't go to HEB, don't do anything, okay? Because again, you're protecting your own staff members. And you want to do that. Unfortunately, that's the only way we can guarantee that you won't, pick up something overnight, right? Security personnel, part of the process is they're going to be pre-screening everybody, making sure, taking temperatures, asking about symptomatic individuals. You're going to want to have a line for the individuals that are going to be testing. You want to double check that they have their QR codes. The students are going to test that day. You want to check before they get off the car that they have their QR code. You want to check that they have their parental slips, right? You want to make sure. If not, you can give them a parental slip right then and there. Have the parent fill it out while they're in the car. Then you can get that information in. These are all just suggestions, okay? Anybody that's symptomatic will go on a separate line. You need to have a separate area for them. They shouldn't be on campus They shouldn't show up to campus if they're symptomatic, but people are technical sometimes. If they're symptomatic or you see they're symptomatic, you put them on a separate line away from the regular testing group, okay? You're gonna figure out another location where they can test. If they're employees of UISD and they test positive, they're gonna go home immediately, okay? If they're a student, obviously they can't go home right then and there, so you put them in the isolation room, which is what the intent was, and then you call the parent and you let them know. Again, before you leave, you know that you're positive or negative. The notification is just an after-effect notification. We're gonna know already if a student or a staff member is positive or negative. So that individual employee has to leave immediately. You tell them that they need to notify their supervisor. In addition, you need to call the supervisor and say you need to call your employee. You're not telling them why, you're not telling them the reason, you're not telling them that they're positive. We gotta keep that in between, between the supervisor and the employee. You just say you need to call this employee and do what you need to do in terms of the intake form and so forth, okay? You'll have the individuals, in charge of the different lines, making sure everybody's socially distanced, making sure, again, repeating the QR code necessity. The test administrator will prepare the testing space for multi-purpose testing. You want to have something like this. After ensuring the space has been disinfected, place the testing material. So before you walked in, everything was already on your desk, right? That's the way you want to have it set up. So before anybody walks in, they're ready to go, you're ready to jump into it. The goal is to start and finish within 15 to 20 minutes, right? Because at the end of the 15 minutes, you're going to want everybody to dispose of their own items. Again, nobody touching anybody else's stuff, right? Place the test subject behind each designated test station. Have 2 folders. Okay, what would have happened if one of y'all tested positive? What do you think the process is? So more than likely, because of the situation, this unique situation, because we're having to present this to you, in normal circumstances, they're standing up, they test, we get results, we know within a couple of minutes, right, 3 or 4 minutes. The individual, had it been in this scenario where we had you sitting down, we would have asked that person to stay, we would have asked everybody else to go out through the doors. We would have put this person in the isolation room, which we have here next door. We would have wiped down everything for you all, and then we'd ask you to come back so that we can do the presentation, right? But under normal conditions, when you're just testing all of a sudden, you're gonna take that student to isolation room immediately, right? And then everybody else is gonna leave because they've already performed their test, right? You don't have to wait. If it's an employee, they go home. They're not gonna wait, we're not gonna wait for anything, they're gonna go home. So eventually what you wanna do is you wanna make sure they have their personal belongings with them so that if they have to leave, they're leaving from there. You're not letting them go back to their classroom to pick up their stuff. You're not letting them do any of that stuff because it doesn't make any sense. They're positive, right? And if nobody wants to handle the test kits, then I think less likely they're going to want to go get their personal belongings and bring it to them, right? So again, you want to emphasize, you want to encourage them to bring their stuff with them, their keys, their purses, whatever, because if they test positive, they got to take off. If they test negative, they go back to work like nothing happened. Okay? You want to keep 2 folders. Red is for positive, and any other color for the other folder. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't have to be red, but we kind of recommend it, right? That's where the QR codes go in, by the way. That's where you want to put the QR code so that we can match up the people that tested with the QR codes that were submitted. Okay, follow the testing criteria based on the training that you received. Again, emphasizing to make sure that there's a blue line. If there is no blue line, do not use the test. Real simple. Once the specimen swab is inserted into the hole containing the reagent, you can wait 2 to 3 or 4 minutes, like I mentioned, and you'll know right away. Even a faint line, guys, real important. You have a strong first line and you have a very detectable second line, you're positive. Okay? If you have a very small detectable first line, you're negative. That's it. But any resemblance of a line whatsoever, even if it's a little speck at top, you're positive. And guess what? We're going to err on the side of caution. You're positive until you can prove to me you're not. Okay? Now, we could work with somebody to say we can retest you the next day or whatever, but for that day, they're going to go home. Okay? Real simple. While the test cards are working towards the results, the test administrators go in and they start scanning, just like we did. You want to have everybody ready to go with their app so that the process is quick. We go up and down the row, we scan everybody. The only thing we're waiting for is the 15 minutes so we could rescan everybody and submit the official results. Try to make that process as quick as possible. Plus, you don't want people interacting that much, right? And again, as you have your team, maybe 3 or 4 of you do the first group, and then another 3 or 4 do the second group, and you're rotating, so it's not the same people over and over again. Just make sure that they know the process. The drop-down menu, when you start the process of checking in somebody, as far as scanning them, it's going to give you locations. We've already submitted all the campuses and department locations. We're testing at the SAC, so we use the SAC as a testing location. But when you go back to your location, it's going to have your campus information. You just look for it. Once you've done it a couple times, it's going to populate it up already. So for that day, you'll have it popping up right away for the people you're testing. And then you'll go ahead and scan the process for scanning out the QR code to get everybody's demographic information. What's going to be important is that on the first screen of the demographic information, just like we did with you, you're confirming your email address and your cell phone, okay? As you go on to the next set of questions, it asks you if you've taken a test before, and if it's no, have you been tested for COVID before? Is this your first COVID test? I'm sorry. Is this your first? If you say yes, you go on to the next question. If you say no, it's going to ask you the month and the year you took your last test. Okay? And it's going to ask you what type of test you took. If you don't know, you can put unknown. If you know that it's a PCR, it's a molecular test, you put that. If you know these are all antigen tests. So if you know that this is the last test you took, you put antigen on it. Okay? It goes to the next one. Do you work in the healthcare industry? For the nurses, you have to answer yes. Everybody else, if you don't, you answer no. The next question is, are you symptomatic? Here's the kicker. If you're no, that's fine. That's the only, it ends there. If you're yes, oh my gosh, there's a list of 20 questions beyond that one question that you're going to have to stay with that person answering. Okay? Again, they should not be on campus. If they're symptomatic, they should not be on campus. We're going to have a separate line for them. That means it's going to take longer to be able to answer those questions that they're going to have there. And then finally, for females only, it asks you that question about, if you're pregnant or not. You don't want to ask it out loud. You just want to show them, can you answer this last question for me and point to it, okay? You don't want to ask them, are you pregnant? And then, everybody's going to hear the answer. You just ask them this question, they say yes or no, okay? Clear? Everybody clear on that? You want to have 2 containers at all times at every one of the testing sites. The red bags were the biohazards. The regular trash bags is going to receive all the other items, okay? Everything that goes in here is going to be your lollipop, basically your test kit, your face mask. Really, those are the 2 main items that need to go in there. Everything else can go into the trash can. The biohazard, again, we're going to work with the nurses to figure out, to make sure we go over the procedure with you as far as storage is concerned. Gloves and face masks shall always be worn when handling biohazard bags and materials, and then disposal of gloves and masks and hand sanitize after release, the release of the bag. So make sure you're taking care of yourself on that aspect. Again, we'll be working with the nurses on that. Positive test, as you can see, 2 lines. One of them is faint, or both of them are faint. Doesn't matter. That's a positive test. Okay. Again, it says here for employees who test positive, have supervisor gather personal items. My recommendation is that they bring them with them, but it's up to you guys how you want to handle that, okay? The students, we may not have a choice. We may not have a choice, but they'll go gather their items to be able to bring it to them when they leave. The employees are sent home immediately. Supervisors should submit a COVID-19 employee intake form. The cool thing that should result in this is that right now we're doing intake forms for the speculation of somebody being positive. By having these results, you'll be able to really do an intake form for a positive person, and if they're negative and asymptomatic, then there's really no intake form that's necessary. Now, it doesn't mean she's positive, I've been in contact with her, I test today, it's not going to give me a good result. I have to wait a couple days in order for the protein to be produced for me to get a good result. So if somebody says, hey, I was exposed to somebody today, just tell them, look, we can test you. This is not going to be accurate. You probably need to wait a couple days, 2 or 3 days. Let's test you then, especially if they're symptomatic. We need to test them. But if they're asymptomatic and you test them 3 or 4 days from now, it's probably a more accurate form of being able to tell they're positive or negative. Again, you give them that option. They can, if they're insistent, go ahead and test them. It's not a big deal, okay? We will not test anybody. I mean, some people are paranoid. They're gonna wanna test every day or whatever. We're not gonna test anybody less than 5 days. So if I test you today, Friday, I can't test you again until next Friday, okay? Or at least sometime next week, within a 5-day period. The reason is, it doesn't make any sense. I test you today, I test you tomorrow. It's not gonna produce a protein that fast. So it's gotta be within a 5-day window, or outside of a 5-day window. I test today, I can't test you again officially until next Wednesday beyond, okay? So nobody will test more than once a week. That's really what I'm saying.
Even if symptoms develop within that 5-day window?
If they develop, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. I mean, that's the exception, right? That's the exception. But you have people that are asymptomatic,
Right.
that want to test
Yeah,
regardless,
yeah.
right?
It's
So
gonna happen, yeah.
if they have symptoms, obviously, yeah, let's test them. Okay? The auditing, all right, this is where it's gonna be important for your site administrator. Not, if you're test administrator, don't worry about it. But if you're gonna be in charge of the inventory, what's coming into your campus, what's being distributed, okay? So that person needs to distribute to the people that are gonna be doing the test administration, okay? They're the sole people. I can't have 2 site administrators. I need to have one person that we're gonna talk to be able to reconcile the number of tests that have been done. If you run out of materials, PPE equipment, I need to have one point of contact. It makes it easier for everybody. You can have a backup, but the primary person is the person that we need to be visiting with to make sure we're getting that information. Every Thursday afternoon, we're gonna have a sheet where you're gonna fill out what your current inventory on hand is. We're gonna gather that data, we're gonna send it to the state on Friday morning to be able to indicate what we have on hand still. Okay, clear? Simple? Again, that's the responsibility of the site administrator. Again, we're going to provide all the PPE equipment. We do recommend that you wear everything. If you're going to be doing the reagent, if you're going to be doing the scanning, we recommend that at least a face mask, N95, and a face shield at the very least. Okay? CDC recommends changing of gloves only when you have direct contact with test subject or specimen. As we get into the lower grade levels, we anticipate maybe a child sneezing on you. So you're going to want to get rid of your gown, you want to get rid of your mask, throw all that away. That's not a problem, okay? If you have interacted or touched somebody that's positive, nurses, if you test somebody, or you're in the room with somebody that's positive, you're going to want to throw everything away, okay? And then just put on new stuff when that individual is gone, okay? Again, this is kind of rehashing the whole process. This is the information in terms of swabbing, the test cards, the app that you're going to be using to scan everything. And then the student testing, grades 3 through 12, so self-administer. Grades pre-kinder through second, we'll be bringing in the parents when we get to that point. We're not going to be asking that initially. We're going to gradually get to that point, okay? Employee testing, teachers at the campus will be tested on the first day of the return to their campus rotation schedule. Initially, as we roll this out, because we're not going to have these, I think the rotations this Monday for some campuses, we're not going to have the test kits out by then, I can tell you right now. But once you get them in, you test everybody, right? Then you follow the schedule, the next rotation, right? So that first day when they come in, sometime during the day, you're going to want to test them, okay? The Friday before that rotation for the teachers, you're going to want to test all your regular staff, the people that are there every day on campus. So the Friday before, you test everybody regularly. The Monday after, you test all the teachers that come in. That way you're separating the groups, and that way you're not testing all these people at once, right? You kind of filter it out. Again, you have to test yourself before you can test somebody else. So if you're going to have one group doing the Friday group, they have to test on Thursday. And if you have a separate independent group on Monday, they have to test on Friday for Monday, okay? And again, we recommend that you don't interact or whatever, but you know, that might be hard to do over the weekend. So that might be the process that you just need to think about. Department staff will be tested every 2 months, or twice a month, Employees may request to be tested. So that's what I'm saying. If somebody's anxious, they want to get tested, you're not going to test them more than once a week, okay? The testing plan, October 30th is when we submit our application. November 5th is when we receive the test. The very next day, November 6th, we tested or piloted at the central office. We had 76 people that tested. Everybody was negative. That's great. This past Wednesday, we tested about 40 people at transportation, everybody was negative. This morning, the first group, everybody was negative. Your group, everybody was negative. So we're on a roll. I don't want to jinx it, but we're on a roll. Of course, statistically, just using mathematical formulas, we're going to have a positive. It's just, we're rolling the dice too many times that we're going to have a positive eventually. But for right now, we're good. And then today, we're doing the training for you all. November 16th, we need to make sure all your certificates have been completed. So if you're here, you've already done the video, I would imagine. You've already taken the exam, hopefully. It's real simple, it's not complicated. You get your certificate, you hold it in your possession so that if we are audited, we can go back and look at your certificate that you are an official test administrator. Okay? Real critical. And then we will not deliver any test kits unless you're all certified. Okay? That's really critical. You cannot conduct a test unless you're certified. Okay? Campus department schedule for employees on November 18th. And then we're anticipating student testing potentially on December 1st. And again, we're focusing on the upper grade levels mainly. We're probably going to be going to your high schools and training your coaches and your sponsors to do the extracurricular. They're going to have to be self-testing. At their levels, we're looking at weekly testing for them. And especially those individuals that are going to be traveling out of town, we're probably going to want to do a protocol for testing for that. Again, it's free, so it doesn't matter how many tests we use. We just want to make sure we're protecting our student athletes and everybody participating in any extracurricular activity. Establishing your team, you're going to have your site coordinator, as we discussed. Again, we're going to provide this to you so you can read it at your leisure. The test administrator, which is pretty much everybody here. Your support personnel, which is all the individuals that are going to come in, help out, making sure that everybody has their information. Security guards checking for temperatures and all the other items that are needed. Custodial services. As soon as you guys leave right now, we're going to wipe everything down for the next group. You're going to want to do that at your campus. When that test group leaves, you give them about a 5 or 10 minute window, let everything settle, spray everything down, let it settle, wipe it down, we're good to go for the next group. Okay? All site coordinators, test administrator, nurses are the video that you guys should have done before you came here. Your campus team, that's just a Google sheet for you to create your campus teams. And then of course, in order for you to be here, you've already done this. This is signing up, getting your account, getting all that set up. So all of y'all should have done that. Has everybody done that process to be able to get your account? Okay. That's the only way you're going to be able to scan the cards and scan the QR codes, is you have that account, because it's going to ask you for that before you can start scanning anybody. Okay? And I believe we get to this point where it says the app. That's the app that's going to allow you to start scanning everybody. It's going to ask you for your email as the administrator and your phone number, and that's what it marries you to linking you to the account where you're certified. Okay? And again, this is the video that we showed earlier. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions? I hope I didn't go too fast on it, but it was a lot smoother than the first one, believe me. Yes, ma'am. Did you have a question? Oh, okay.
How are we treating, symptomatic kids that are negative?
That's a great question. That's a very good question. We're going to recommend for everybody that's symptomatic, that's negative, to go and get a test. Or we retest them the next day, or maybe wait a couple days and we retest them. But if the attorneys have reviewed this, Mr. Santos, if it's negative, it's negative. So we're not going to send anybody home if it's a negative test. They still get allowed to come back. But we probably, what we want to do, they come back the next day, is we're going to want to test them again that particular day.
So they finish out the school day?
They're negative.
If they're negative.
Symptomatic.
If they're negative symptomatic. Because they could have the flu, they could have strep, they could have other things. Or unless they get an alternative diagnosis, right? I mean,
Right.
we follow our protocol for that. Same thing with employees. If they're symptomatic, again, I emphasize, they shouldn't even be on campus.
Right.
But it could be somebody that's already disclosed that they're symptomatic. They've already given a alternative diagnosis. You'll know who those people are.
Yes.
So in that situation, even those that are symptomatic, you still want to test them separately from the test group, but you're going to know what their condition is. So you would have let them in anyway in a given normal situation, right? Because they've already disclosed what their symptoms. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so
teachers coming in for their rotation.
Yes, ma'am.
They can come in on Monday. Do we need to test them Monday?
Monday, that day.
So
The only
before
exception,
school starts?
well,
That's-
we're leaving it up to every campus.
Okay.
We're leaving it, because apparently they want all the teachers logged in by a certain hour or a certain
Right.
time frame, so it's gonna be difficult to have people coming in at 6 in the morning, 6:30, and test everybody. So sometime during that day, they need to get tested. Here's the key. Number one, we wanna know they're positive, right? So we can send them home that day. Obviously, if you do it at the end of the day, we wasted that whole day. But hopefully you do it when they have their planning periods or whatever you'll have to figure out.
Okay.
But then, when we go and collect, when we have the contract to go and collect the waste, medical waste, we want to be able to send them the next day because you already tested everybody that, you know what I'm saying? So it's not sitting for long periods of time in that area. So that's the other critical component for us. Now, you're gonna have one or two people coming during the week that are gonna test or want to test or whatever. Those just go into the waste, into your container, and then whenever we pick up, right? But they're not gonna be that many. But when you do mass testing, we're gonna wanna pick up, as soon as possible.
And so a big group of testing like in school, you recommend the gym or the cafeteria?
That's our recommendation. I mean, you can do it, you wanna do it in an area where it's easy to wipe down, there are hard surfaces. You don't wanna have cloths, you don't wanna have anything that's gonna be difficult to wipe down. You wanna have it in a setting. Again, nobody's gonna be sitting down, right? So everybody's gonna be standing up. They do their test and they're gone. So from start to finish, they shouldn't be in there more than 20 minutes total. And that is just waiting for the time to officially get the results, right?
For the official results.
Yeah, for the official results. So right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk around with the trash cans, so you can throw in your personal, medical waste, and then we're gonna walk around with the